And we're away. Good morning. Welcome to our next interview in our series that we're doing around the psychology of chasing down a dream in creative industries. And it's my absolute delight this morning to welcome Shelley Pisani, who I've got to know through CQ Shopfront. But Shelley, would you like to give us a bit of an overview of your incredible arts practice and all that you do in creative industries?
Thanks, Susie. It's a delight to be talking to you. You're very inspirational, and I think that you're doing amazing things for your community. I have been in the arts sector for over 25 years now. So I started out working in more of a marketing role and designing role, pivoted to being a studio practitioner. I had a ceramic studio in Brisbane for a while. And I came back to work at the Regional Art Gallery here in Bundaberg, and that was there for 10 years. And I had a real drive for wanting to make a difference in community with the arts. So I left that position and started up a consultancy business and started doing a few projects, which ended up leading to the formation of a company called Creative Regions with 3 other co-directors. I did that for 11 years, and we did some major strategic projects and I think made quite a difference to the regional arts sector at the time, and that company continues to do so now. I left that nearly 2 years ago and started up my consultancy arm again because I saw some opportunities to have a bit of a break. Running a not-for-profit is a challenging area to be in, and I decided I wanted to get back out into the business world again, and I've been quite refreshed by that. I have now developed 3 businesses as of this week. I have the Ideas Distillery, which is my consultancy business. The major project that I've been delivering through that is the CQ Shopfront project that you mentioned. And that is a program that's working with artists from across central Queensland, so 7 funded local government areas, to develop their business sense, to develop business plans and build their entrepreneurial capacity and ability to develop products that are commercially viable. And that's just been such a rewarding thing to do. It had been something I'd been told for at least 10 years that was needed in regional Queensland. And I knew it was needed, but I didn't realise just how much it was needed. So just a support network and just an ear for people to talk to and bounce ideas off, and even just running through that structuring of how to operate your practice. I'm also getting back into being a practicing artist myself with my new design business, Ink Block Design. So I'm doing a lot of experimentation with printmaking and getting back into my ceramics again as well. So I'll be doing digital fabrics, digitally printed homewares, some hand printed homewares, and the ceramic lines as well that are also using printmaking techniques. And my final business is actually a pivot of CQ Shopfront. Like we've all been through these difficult, challenging times with COVID-19, I had to change the CQ Shopfront project model to adapt online because a lot of the workshops were meant to be delivered face-to-face. And so that's actually invented a new project called Makers Shopfront, because there's been demand created to take that project model to other regions. So I've developed a new business model around that. So I suppose that's the problem with having a creative mind. You're always coming up with new ideas.
So much. And I think that's what's super exciting about what you do in creative industries is that you really understand that this idea that you have to have different pillars in place to sustain a career outside of an arts organisation. So if you're an arts practitioner, you really do understand that idea. It's a business and you have to put pillars in place to make that work. But what's been really exciting for me is watching my colleague Karen work through CQ Shopfront and take her what was a nice business idea that was growing and watch her really grow through the process, because you don't just teach people here's how you get an ABN and here's how you do this and that. You really give them the mindset of an artist practitioner who runs a business. And how are you seeing artists grow and develop? Like, I've seen Karen blossom through the program. Do you have any other stories to share that you've seen other people really take that idea on of being an artist practitioner and growing a business? Have you got a few little CQ shopfront stories?
Oh, there's lots of them. And this week I've started the online mentoring phase of the project, and I've been getting some amazing feedback from people about how much participating in the project has changed them. Just the little aha moments that they've had. Oh, I didn't think of it that way before.
Yeah.
And that's completely changed my path. So a lot of artists actually think, oh, I do quite an eclectic range of things, and I like experimenting with lots of different media, and that's all great, and do that. We all need to do that to keep ourselves refreshed and energized. And there's nothing wrong with changing tack within your career. But one of the biggest learning curves for a lot of people, I think, has been about focusing as a business. You can't be everything to everyone. And the workshop that I run in developing target audience profiles is one that just really flipped things for a lot of people. They went, oh, I never have actually thought about it from the perspective of the buyer before.
Yeah.
Who are they? Why do they want to buy my products? And it's not selling out to think that way.
No.
It's actually sensible. Because the thing is, if you're selling to people and you're struggling to keep selling to that type of person, they're not your market. So you need to think about who is your market, and just making work and selling it in a local market stall might be what you want to do, and you might be happy with that. You might be making enough money. That's your goal. For some people, though, they're not selling at that market, and why not? Their work might be a bit too pricey for a market stall, and they need to take it further afield. So when people started doing all this,
that not every opportunity is for every artist, and that's what I'm hearing.
That's right.
Say. Yeah.
So that's the thing. I've got people who are doing really quite small businesses. Then I've got people who are participating whose business opportunities really are international. Like Karen is one of them. I think she's got potential for international clients for her fashion range in the future. And there's a lot of people like that. And COVID-19 has actually shaken up a lot of people's thinking around that, because you couldn't go to the local markets and sell your work. The galleries shut down, as you know, and the selling opportunities in those traditional ways reduced. So people went, oh, I need to be selling online. Even some of the most successful people I know, even some of the artisans and residents that are participating in the CQ Shopfront project in the coming months, they didn't have an online selling presence. They were selling through people, and that stopped. So they've now realised, they've got the existing client base that they've built up over the years by selling through those means, but they need to also have an online presence. Still keep going with those beautiful relationships you have with galleries and other different ways that you sell, but having an online presence for selling, and there's lots of different ways of doing that, is really vital to sustaining your practice.
So do you have those conversations with people? Because a point that you made is creating a commercial product, or a product that has different price points for what you're doing. Do you have conversations with your artists about how it's not a dirty word to say commercial when you're making art, or that you're making art for marketing your product? So you can still have your fine art aspirations where you're creating a piece that you'd like to go and have and build like a fine artist reputation. But from that really beautiful fine art expensive piece, you can create different price points and take away this taboo idea that marketing fine art is something that is a bit of a dirty word and we shouldn't be doing it as fine artists.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a constant conversation. And Katie White, who came to the project as a flying arts tutor, and she co-presented the workshops online with me, She calls it merchandising. So, and that's exactly the way she operates. She's got her practice as a painter and a mural artist, and then she's got her merch, she calls it. So it's still products that are inspired by her practice and continue to share her story as an artist. So they're not something that she's just done to make money.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a motivation, but from the buyer's perspective, it's actually contributing to the story about her as an artist. And that's what the important thing is about coming up with the right product is. For some people that's translating their designs into repeat patterns that can be printed onto fabric. For some people, it's making t-shirts. For others, it's making postcards, cards, stationery items, those sorts of things. So there's lots of different ways of having that backup. I just spoke to an artist this week, and there's several bronze sculptors involved in the project, and bronze sculptures are expensive to buy.
Yeah.
So not everyone is going to be able to buy a bronze sculpture. Yes. One of the beautiful artists from the Fraser Coast region, Elizabeth Hersey, is creating
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, well, she's diversifying into a wearable art range. So there's still going to be a high-end price point, but they're smaller, more accessible pricing-wise than a sculpture. But that sort of also builds loyalty to your product. Those people might convert to buying a sculpture down the track because they love your work. Absolutely. So then there's a few people that are in the same boat. They've got really high-end artworks that they create. That's their fine art practice, but there needs to be something else that sustains them in the meantime until they get that big sale.
Absolutely. So the other thing around that idea is the dialogue that artists run in their heads, and something that we struck a lot is that is coming up with a feeling of self-worth in going that the original product is good, but should I really merchandise it? Should I really create all this? That there's a dialogue that runs a lot that I'm not worthy to expand my practice. And you're such an inspiration to a lot of us. And I wonder, what kind of dialogue do you run when you're looking to pivot your business, when you're looking to grow, expand, shift and change? You know you've got another step to take. That little voice in your head goes, oh, should I, shouldn't I? And there's a bit of fear around it. I'm really interested to dive into the kinds of things that you tell yourself to move you over the hurdles of fear when you're expanding your creative business. It's a big question.
We all have that voice. I certainly get it as well. The biggest thing is to make sure you have your crew. You have people that you trust their opinion. They're not family usually, because family will always tell you they love everything you do. Yeah. These are people that are in the industry, they're other artists, people you can trust to share your ideas with, because we as artists, we do have to protect our IP. So you build up a little trusting network of people that you can go to and have those conversations. And I've got some of those people that have been around me for more than 10 years now that I can ring up and I can say, look, this is what's happening. I've got this opportunity. And we have this sort of free mentoring relationship. And I've just recently added another person to the mix of that. And we just bounce ideas off each other. Like, those people don't necessarily even need to be visual artists. They could be business owners from a completely different set. I've got people who are in theatre, not visual arts, but they've got that creative entrepreneurial mindset. So they just bring a little bit of extra thought to it to make you think a little bit differently and to refine your ideas. It is challenging though, like as a visual artist, we're putting ourselves out there on canvas, on paper, it's our thoughts and feelings going out to the world. And starting up in block designs after 20 odd years of not actually creating as an artist has been quite challenging for me, because I feel like I get this anxiety thing going, people are going to watch me. I've been giving them advice for years and now I'm actually doing it myself.
Now I've got to
But
put it into practice. Yeah.
that's right. That's right. So, I mean, and I have done that before with a previous practice, but I've just done that in increments and steps, and just when I'm really happy with the work, sharing it on social media. And I really haven't got the business ready to run yet. I haven't got products ready to sell yet, but I'm already starting to build up a social media following
Yeah.
because people are enjoying the journey of my story of getting back into my practice, because there's a lot of people in the same boat.
Yeah.
And I just, when I really like something, I share it.
Yeah.
Or if I learn something new, I share it.
Sure.
So
It's beautiful.
yeah.
So what I take out of those two things is there's a vulnerability to what you're saying, which is super beautiful. And artists, we meet that when they walk through the door and they've got their work. There's a real sense of vulnerability around, is it good enough? Will somebody steal what I'm doing? And then, like that process of overcoming can sometimes keep people in their homes. But this lovely idea of surrounding yourself with a herd mentality. Have you in your career come up against somebody who then, you've got your trusty herd, but have you got anyone who actually challenged you and has put some serious obstacles in your way that you still have overcome? And is there a process then that you draw on that's of your own beyond the herd?
Yeah, more often than I care to think of, have
Yeah.
I hit those obstacles, those people who, I got to a point in my career at one stage where I got treated like I was a bit, oh, you're a bit old hat now. We've heard enough from you.
Mm.
And that's when I went, okay, I'm going to stop playing in my own backyard for a little while, and I'm going to think a bit bigger, and I'm going to go and partner with people that are outside of my region for a little while and get a renewed sense of myself as an arts worker and artist, and feel refreshed. And so that's what I do just about every time I hit that wall.
Yeah.
With people, and you do. And I do have a motto that I actually borrowed from somebody else, and I can't even remember who that is now, but it's something that at Creative Regions we developed over the years. We just go where the energy is. And if you get the negative energy from someone, you don't have to go there. You don't have to say yes to every opportunity that's coming your way. If you get that vibe that it's not the right fit for your own values, don't go there.
Yeah.
And I've learned to, I think that comes with age. You learn to be a bit harder in making those decisions and stick to your guns a little more.
Yeah, because it's one of those things that's it's a tough call when you're creative and you're starting out and you've got this your heart's on your sleeve and you really believe in what you're doing, but you can hit those no's, and there's a sense of resilience and grit and determination and growing that sense of self-worth that says you still have a place in creative industries, even if it's not with these people, even if it's not with this opportunity, that what you're doing is still worthy. And that comes from, doesn't it? I say it comes from going through it more than once and not letting that the first time that you strike someone say that what you're doing, it's not really for me. But if you still have that belief, if you still love the idea, I guarantee there's going to be somebody else out there that loves it too. If it's still got meat on the bones and you're still inspired by it, you are going to find that opportunity, and you are going to find those people who eventually turn around and go, you know what, here's where this fit. It wasn't there, it's here, and you can start to move that on. So thinking about that, when you start to get that idea and you go, yep, I'm still really invested in this, do you have a process of goal setting that you share, or are you flying by inspiration? How much mechanics do you put onto that when your creative business has to change, find a new opportunity? How much mechanics do you put over the top of that idea?
There's lots of different things I do to, I constantly test it, I suppose.
Yeah.
I have that idea. I have a chat with my mentors about it. I do some online research. I make sure that my idea is original, because I've been through that process where people have taken my ideas and run with it before. I've got a colleague who's going through exactly the same thing at the moment. So I just, I don't want to be that person that's doing something the same as somebody else.
Yes.
So I do a lot of research to reinforce my ideas, and I look internationally for different models. So the Makers Shopfront model, which is the, CQ Shopfront version 2.0, it's, I've looked internationally at different models. I've looked at, online courses that I've done and what have I learnt from that, what was good practice. And that's actually bringing the model together. And I built a team around me. I'm not delivering it on my own. So I've built a team around me that I trust, that can help me get the product developed that I want. The one thing that I always say is you cannot do everything yourself. You need to work out what is you're passionate about doing. So you've got this big idea, but which parts of it do you enjoy? Which parts don't you enjoy, and don't you'll be really stretching yourself with your skill set to actually achieve what you would like to come out of that idea. So that's where you have to go, okay, well, I really like this person and I'm going to bring their graphic design skills in here. There's no way I'm going to do the finances for this. I'm bringing my accountant in, looking around and pulling those different skill sets in together. And you need to then invest in yourself. So we don't, in the arts, we always don't have a lot of money sitting in the bank account to be able to financially invest, but we do have time and we do have our creative thinking. So you need to invest that first, build that framework. What I'm teaching on CQ Shopfront with the business planning process is what I do. So I go through all of those steps. I think about all of those things. And going through those steps, writing funding applications is very similar. If you sit down and write a funding application and you're responding to somebody's questions, it really does make you think differently about the idea that you're proposing. And word it in a way that people who have no idea where you're coming from get it. So that's the sort of stuff you need to do to make it work.
It is that framework, isn't it? And I prescribe to a similar idea. And like when artists want to go apply for a project, it's very much read through so carefully what they want from that project and build your rationale first. Like before you decide it's a really good idea and you've invested everything you want to do, really read and really research the opportunity. Even if you just want to put your work in a competition, check out who the judge is, check out what the building like give yourself as much chance for success before you put that financial investment or that over the top. That research and that strategizing and filling in the applications actually fleshes out the idea. So I very much prescribe to the same idea, that it's not just, hey, I've got this idea, start painting. It's flesh it out and use those business strategies that they apply to the business world equally as they apply to a creative industry. And research and strategizing and goal setting, that's all so valuable for an artist to really wrap their heads around. So I wonder, when you do your consultancy, do you take artists through those steps for their project, or what does your consultancy offer? If I was approaching you to come and say, I've got this idea, how would your consultancy work for me?
Well, it's different with every person, so it really depends on what their needs are. That's what I drill down to first. Where do they want to take this idea? Where do they want to take their career? Because often people come to me and say, I need funding and I want to do this. And I'm like, okay, well, you can't actually apply for funding to buy and set up buy equipment to set up your studio. So how do we, what you wanting to set up your studio, how are you going to do that? What sort of business model are you looking at? So it just depends on people's needs. Some people come to me with a very, very specific idea, and it's quite clear cut to get them on a path to applying for funding. And people are very scared about the language of funding.
Yes.
And it's not a language. I used to think that when I first started writing funding applications. It's not a language, it's a process. It's like you said, looking at the guidelines, breaking down, making sure that you're addressing what they're asking for, but they want your story. They don't want to read, like, I'm a funding assessor as well for all different levels of government, and we don't want to sit there and read 130 applications from artists that all sound the same. We want to hear the individual story. So I suppose when I'm mentoring people, I need to get to know their story, and I need to nurture that. And interestingly, this week, as part of the mentoring I've been doing with CQ Shopfront, every single person I spoke to in one day was, I don't know how to tell my story. I don't know how to focus my story. But in the conversation, it had come out, oh, well, I actually my work is inspired by something that happened in my childhood. So I create these characters because I want to represent a safe space for children. And that artist, if she's listening to this, will know who she is. And I think in that moment she went, oh, that's my story.
There's my story. It's such
that's the thing that people will engage with. Yeah.
On this side of the fence, we strike that is that because the language of the artist is so visual, when we get to that point where we go, now I need you to tell me, or I need you to write it, it's like, but that's where I share it. That's where I put my story. And it takes that little bit of teasing to go, there it is. Now I'm with you. Now I understand, and I can get that bigger picture. And I think it's a beautiful thing to work with artists to give them. Even one of the things I like to work with is can we do a 20-second pitch? Is like, if I gave you 20 seconds to tell me what's your practice, can you put in, and the you just see it's like I don't know if it's fear or whether it's or what goes on, but it's like you just see that. No, I can't.
No, they don't know. In a lot of cases, people don't know where to start.
They don't.
And it takes time to actually work through that, to be able to quickly articulate what it is that you do. So
do you find that they have the vision sort of, because I think if there's two things that I find when I mean, they can't articulate the story like you said, and that takes some teasing, but they don't have the end picture visualized either. It's, a lot of the time I find that they're stuck in the middle process, and we haven't got the before story and the final story. And when we build those two things, it's like the middle process seems to then get some energy and some flow. Do you find a similar process with the people you meet?
Yeah, absolutely. I find people at different parts of that journey though too. So there's definitely, I would say, the majority fit into what you just described. Yeah. But I've also, through CQ Shopfront, come across people of this is where I want to be. I want to be having one solo exhibition each year. I want to be selling prints. I want to do this one. Yeah, they know where they want to be in 5 years, but they don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
And so that's that business planning process thing. And not all creatives have that inbuilt frameworking process. It is a very different way of thinking to the way we think as creatives. We often think in cycles and circles rather than in a linear fashion.
Yes.
And it's about taking those ideas and going, okay, so in order to create those prints, what are your values? Mm-hmm. Do you want to be going to a printer that has certain values that match yours, like they use eco-friendly dyes, they use acid-free paper. You don't just want to go and get something printed at Officeworks. You want to get a high-end, like a print done. And
quality collectible print, yeah.
Yeah, so who is that supplier for you? Do you want to be getting somebody from overseas to do this for you? Do you want to have a policy of being Australian made? So you are Australian, you've made this beautiful work, you're getting somebody to print it for you. Do you want to send it overseas, or do you want to get it printed in Australia? So it's that process of teasing out your values, and going through all of those steps: vision, mission, objectives.
Yeah.
It really is a business planning process that comes behind just about everything. Whether you're planning a project, whether you're developing a new product, you need to go back through that planning process in order to make it really work and feel comfortable in delivering it.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And when all this is going on, like you've got so much going on with your practice, and I can see that, like the logic, it all adds up, and this fits here and this fits there. Do you have a practice for how you ground in all that, like to keep your mind? Because I know when I get too many projects happening, like I'm always running lists, like it's just this constant running list, and I have to stop.
I've got my list sitting on another screen beside me here.
Right? It's just there's always a million things to do, and artists can feel overwhelmed by that. My personal practice is to meditate. What do you do to be able to manage the business side of running a creative industry versus, being very human and going, I still need to feel like I can function in my family and in my life? Do you use meditation, exercise? Do you have something else that helps you bring all this together and keep you so grounded in your career?
Yeah, that's an interesting question to ask me right now when I've been working till midnight, probably for the last 3 weeks, because of all the funding deadlines and pressures on the arts industry, and the COVID environment in particular at the moment.
Massive at the moment,
yeah. But I suppose for me, I sit a little bit differently to you in that I haven't been practicing as an artist. I've been an arts worker. I've been doing arts administration for so many years. So right now, my solace is I've set myself a day of the week as a studio day to get my ink block designs business up and running. Yes, it's a business, but I actually don't work on the business. I work on creating
in it. Yeah.
In that time, and that is my time out.
Yeah.
And my children better not come in and burst my bubble, I tell you, when I'm in that mode. So yeah,
because it's like it's and not every artist agrees, but like when I create, it's like a flow state, a zone state. It's a check out, the toast is burning, the kids are set the house or whatever. I'm creating, and I'm in this space, and so many other things can be happening, but it's like I'm checked out in that space. Do you
definitely
get a similar creative space?
Well, I try to. Yeah. So I try to schedule studio days on school days because the kids are at school. So, and I also don't have a distinct studio space because I haven't been a practicing artist for a while. So I'm in the process of renovating the house to make a studio space. But so yeah, that for me, the actual process of switching off the business thinking brain and getting into the creative brain, that's where I'm finding relaxation.
Find your balance. It gives you that sense of equilibrium, because it's one of the challenges that that I've found it as something that artists have tried to push through. And as we try and encourage more of the business skill, they go, but my creative time, and then I've got to feel like I'm a human. And it's like, how to make these different mindsets work together and still feel like we're as creative as we need to be, and we can stop that mental list running when we need to get to that creative space. For me, I have to take that physical step. I have to go, all right, I'm going to meditate and just stop my brain thinking for 5 seconds so that I can create and not be thinking about all the paperwork that I should be doing.
Yeah. So I wish I could meditate. I can't switch my brain off enough. I've never been able to switch my brain off enough to meditate. I wish it was something I could do. But yeah, well, and I also find, we're talking about the lists. The list thing is something that my husband laughs at me about regularly because I create a list for everything.
Right.
But once I've got a list, it's out of here and it's there.
Yeah.
And I've scheduled my time around that. And I know this is what I've got to achieve today. If I don't get there, I've stopped punishing myself over that too. I've learned over the years, if you don't get through that list, you probably overset your goals for the day. So just reset that at the end of the day and
go again.
So,
I guess that's something I've got to recently, because like when you got so much that you just keep going. And I've got myself to a point now where I go, achieve these 3 things today. And as long as you've achieved anything you do bonus to that is great. As long as these are your priorities, and then you can achieve the rest. And it was setting those goals and those lists and daily targets and quarterly targets, and then on there actually gives me more time to create than I've ever had in this process of working industry as well as being a creative person. So it's I think it's interesting to share that with artists, to say that you can make time for the business of your art as well as the business of making your art, and have that mental equilibrium work for you. It's putting systems in place that you feel like you can stick to, and not punishing yourself when you're not in the studio, or not punishing yourself when you're not doing all the other things that you need to do to keep it going. And it's an interesting practice to share with other artists, to say you can have all of those worlds working for you and still make great art.
That's right, absolutely. Yeah, well, today's actually supposed to be my studio day,
and
no. I'd planned for that as part of my studio day. That's all right. It's actually the list that's carried over from the week, and I'm like, okay, I need to get that list complete, or I'm not going to be able to enjoy my studio time. So I've shifted studio time to the weekend, so I can get all of that rounded out and have my head clear and go, okay, I've achieved everything I need to achieve this week, and now I can move on and spend some time being creative. Yeah.
Now I wanted to ask you too, like with creative projects, I've always had a project in mind. I don't find that I create for no reason. Like I'll have a target or a project or a reason to be doing what I'm doing. And I've watched, as I said, we've watched how Karen has blossomed through the program. And with the idea that the artisan store has a project at the end of it, are you the kind of creative who can work just because you want to create, or do you put a project in place to keep you in the studio and moving towards something?
Well, at the moment with my design business, I've got end goals, yes. Like I want to develop certain products. Yeah. So, but in the creative process, I still have lots of ideas layering it, and we do, because we're creating work. Like I can't just sit down and make. There's a story behind everything that I do, and there's a reason why I'm doing a whole series around the she oak tree at the moment, because our childhood connection, etc., etc. So there's always intent in every single thing I do, and I think most artists are the same.
Yeah.
Even the most abstract of artists has a very good reason for doing the work the way that they do it.
Yeah.
So, and Katie White's journey, I've been talking about her a lot lately, and because she's gone, actually being a tutor within CQ Shutfront has given her the confidence to go, okay, I'm going to be a full-time practicing artist again. And she's done that in recent weeks, and she's putting her story out there on Instagram so clearly now. She's very abstract with her work, but she's taking photos of her work within the landscape that's inspired it and sharing that on social media. And I never realized that that work was inspired by landscape. Yeah. I could always see those shapes in it, but I never actually understood the connection. So yeah, I think there's always intention, and I suppose for somebody who comes from a very strong arts worker, arts admin background, I have end goals.
Yes.
But I think at the moment, when I'm having my creative time, I am thinking about, oh yeah, I think this design could go on that. But the processes that I'm doing enable me to think differently, because I'm doing jelly plate printing, which is highly experimental. You never know what it's going to look like. You can sort of calculate a little bit of it, but most of the time you can't. It just comes out the way it comes out, and half of it is ready for the bin or for collaging at a later date, and some of it you go, yeah, I could actually sell that as an artwork. Or
a beautiful contrast, because the day-to-day running of 3 businesses and family, it's so, you know, you can predict the outcomes of those things, and then you're making this art that has, you know, you can't rely on the outcomes. So it's a lovely contrast to be able to go, here's where I can let go of a bit of control and just make and see and have fun. And I can imagine it really takes the pressure cooker down to just play with
it does.
The control of the outcome let loose.
Absolutely. I think my family like it better once I've had a day in the studio, actually.
Yeah. My family say the same. Oh, she's got a pencil in her hand. Awesome. What was I going to say? Social media, like you're talking about Katie and the impact that she's having on using social media as a voice. So it really has become next level important with coronavirus doing what it's done to creative industry, shutting down so many outlets. How did I want to phrase that question? The importance of giving the backstory like Katie has and going, here's my work, because you can scroll through social media, let's face it, and it's like art. What's going to stop us in our tracks? Because I talk about when you walk into a gallery and you walk in, you take that first look, but you'll find that one thing that you want to walk over to. So I took to it as be the most interesting thing in the room, because I'm going to be competing for your 30 seconds and your 30 seconds. I want them all to stand at my work and talk and be that one that they walk over to in the room. It's one thing to do that in a physical gallery space and to create a hero piece that will grab attention in a gallery room. How do we do it on social media? Is like, have you got any hints, tips, strategies for how we start to get our creative voices forward on social media?
Yeah, well, I've actually been doing, I actually also have a part-time job in the mental health sector, working on projects and marketing. And I've been doing this amazing online course in marketing this year. And it's also the same thing that we're selling through CQ Shopfront. It's all about your story and planning how you reveal that story. So, and it's different on different platforms, like Instagram and Pinterest are probably, and a little bit Facebook, but Instagram and Pinterest are really where artists are having success.
Yeah.
Because it's all about the image, and that's what's grabbing people. So you've got to actually create your own style of the way you put your images up there, and look and feel. It can even be a color tone, that all those different filters and stuff that you can use on Instagram. Having that consistent look and feel is what can grab people. So the image is the first hook, but it's also, you know, in Instagram's case, it's the hashtags and researching the hashtags and making sure that hashtag is really relevant to what you're doing, because it will amplify how many people get to see you.
So pretending somebody's looking at posting on Instagram for the first time and we don't know what a hashtag does. Can you describe a little bit of what Instagram does with hashtags? Why are they important?
So people follow hashtags on Instagram. So there's certain things that people are interested in. So for instance, with my ink block designs business at the moment, pattern design is a hashtag that I follow. Textile art, I follow. Ceramics. So if you are hashtagging your post that is a pattern design and you're hashtagging pattern design, people might get to see that if they follow that hashtag. That hashtag is followed, I can't remember now, I think it's like 500,000 people worldwide follow that hashtag.
Right.
So you can get lost very quickly in the system of that. So you need to have, I was just on a workshop about Instagram yesterday actually, and where they recommended 10 hashtags for every post at a minimum.
Yeah.
But you can go up to 30. because that positions your image in people's feed where they have a like mind to you, because that hashtag means something to your story and it means something to them. So it helps you to cut through all that busy noise.
Yeah. So if there's billions and billions of posts on Instagram, you can, with that hashtag, you can narrow it down to 500,000 if that's what they're using and someone's searching that hashtag.
Yeah, and you can drill it down even further, and you can create your own hashtags and start getting a following for your own hashtags as well. So it's really about, and the best way to know what is the right hashtag, find the artists that inspire you, the people that you look up to, and look at what they're doing. Look at the hashtags that they're using. And I just found out about this, a couple of really cool apps yesterday. One of them is, I'm just going to have to look at it quickly, Lee Tags, elderly TAGS, and you can actually type in hashtags there, and it'll tell you how many people are following that hashtag and what are the similar hashtags to that. So it actually cuts down a bit of your research time that you have to do on Instagram by having an app that will tell you all that sort of information. But that's the best way, is who do you follow? Why do they grab your attention? And analysing those things and going, okay, so how does that apply to me and to my practice and my values?
Because I think this is something that we need to really, really share with artists, is that there's a lot of analytics that happen behind YouTube, that happen behind Instagram, that happen behind Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok. All of these things can be used to give an art brand career practice a whole new life, and a lot of it you have to search for, and there's apps that'll do analytics for you and can take some of the work out. But the more that we start to break down with artists and going, this is where we're headed for artists, it's $1 billion industry online already. To get a part of that, we really need to start understanding how the platform works. And let's face it, what we do is visual, and these are visual platforms. We should be smashing social media, but so many of us don't understand that it's not just, you can't just put a post up and hope it's going to reach 1 million people and go viral. That the analytics behind it, the tools behind it, is what's going to help you reach your audience. Do you offer mentoring around social media, or is there support that your programs that people can find this information out through?
Yeah, I generically offer ideas around that, and Katie, as my associate producer, she actually is a font of knowledge about social media. But it is really a specialty thing. It's like if I'm printing upholstery fabric, I don't know how to upholster a chair. I'm going to get somebody to come and do that for me, because I don't actually want to learn how to do that, and I don't want to know. So in some cases you need to go, do I have somebody who knows me, knows my business, who could do the social media for me? Is there somebody I can go to that has specialty coaching? But there's also so many people, if you get to know their Instagram pages, their Facebook pages, LinkedIn, etc., and you follow them, they're constantly giving social media tips that just make you have these little aha moments. So an example Katie gave in one of the workshops is a tour-based business called Women in Gravy, and they are constantly putting social media tips, or particularly Instagram, I think it is, tips up on their page, because that's their business. And they just give those little hooks and little tips that you go, oh, okay, I could be doing that. I need to think differently about that. So having those things come up in your feed as well when you get trolling through your social media in a day is really quite useful. But I can't recommend enough, if it's something that you'd like to control yourself and do yourself, which I'm very much like that with my social media, go out and do a bit of extra specialty training. It's really worthwhile. And the thing is, you've got to keep in touch with what's going on, because there's some people, like the people I'm doing training with through my other job at the moment, they are keeping up with all of that back end stuff that changes. Yeah. Well, it's also the metrics that are used for, oh, we're going to elevate this post, or no, we're not going to elevate that post. And why they get that, and that changes frequently. And there's new apps and additions coming out to each of these things constantly too, like LinkedIn are getting into stories. I don't know if they've started that yet.
It's amazing. Hey, all these platforms.
So they're all constantly changing and adapting. Yeah. Well, and the other thing is too, finding out about the things like Hootsuite and different platforms that you can access, where you can do all of your scheduled posting. Social media can be a huge time suck. It is vital to business success these days. And when I look back when I had my studio 20 years ago in Brisbane, it was just all print media, radio, television, which you couldn't access. Websites were not something that everybody could afford to have, and it was only really just starting out. Even email communication wasn't as big back when I had my studio. So it's a whole different ball game, and we've got access to these things for free, but they do take time. So it's much better. What I do, I tend to plan 2 weeks ahead and do a spreadsheet on my computer, and I go, okay, these are all my different platforms. And this is what I'm going to post about in each platform. And you need to understand what each platform is for and which of your target audiences sit on that platform. Because, if I was selling a product to a soccer mum, I keep using the soccer mum example because this came up in a Crush Festival consultation one time. So I had, that was part of the demographic of one of my target audience profiles. They're going to be sitting in a car on a Wednesday afternoon waiting for their child to finish soccer practice at 4 p.m.
Facebook.
Between 4 and 5. So I need to be posting something on Facebook that's of interest to them between 4 and 5 in the afternoon, or a little bit before, so it comes up in their feed. Same with Instagram, because soccer mums would be on both of those platforms. So it's just about knowing your audiences and then going, okay, so where do they sit within social media? So a soccer mum isn't going to be on LinkedIn. At that time of the day. If they're a working person, they've tuned out from work for the day. They're not going into LinkedIn. They want to be looking at the fun stuff on Facebook and Instagram. So it's just about knowing your audiences, knowing which platform does what for you. And that's a really important part in your business plan. Just even setting up that basic framework of, I use Facebook for this to target these people. I use Instagram for this, and I use these hashtags as my basic ones. So having all of that stuff. I'm going to post to Facebook 3 times per week. I'm going to post to Instagram once a week. I'm going to do Pinterest once a fortnight. Just that helps you to schedule, balance it out, and you go, okay, it might be Monday morning, Friday afternoon, whenever it might be, I'm going to allow an hour to do my social media scheduling.
Yes, and you can schedule it ahead of time. It doesn't mean that you have to post that at that time. You can schedule it all on their programs, can't you?
Yeah, and then if there's something spontaneous, which Instagram's great for, taking a photo in the moment and sharing it in the moment, you can do that too. But the image also needs to be good. You don't just share it for the sake of sharing it. You've got to share an image of quality and a good story to go with it.
Like if I'm filtering down what we've talked about today, it's having a great team of people around you. It's even for this, if you don't want to manage your social media, make sure the person that you bring into it understands your client, understands your brand, understands who you want to reach and what you want to say. And it's figuring out the tasks that you can do for yourself, knowing that if you want to move your creative brand forward, you're going to have to embrace that you're a business, and that businesses these days have to embrace social media. They have to embrace all these different platforms. But it's, what I'm hearing you say is going, I know I can do this bit. I know I can do this bit, and I'm going to bring you in to do that bit so that we can tick the boxes of what our new creative businesses look like. Does that feel like a fair?
Absolutely. Yeah, because we think we operate solo visual artists, and that was actually one of the beautiful things about the first stage of CQ Shopfront is I hosted a meetup in each of the regions, and artists came together and met each other and talked, and half of the people in those rooms had never met each other before, because visual artists work in isolation most of the time. So they come into this space, and even gallery directors and stuff are going, oh, haven't met that person before, that person's new to me. So and those people got an immediate sense of, I've found my people. I didn't know these people were out there.
Right.
and they're like, oh, I don't need to be working in isolation so much. Maybe I could be working with this person. And because we're working across such a large geography, there's people across regions going, oh, your work and my work, we work in a similar way. Hey, let's get together. And we work on similar things. Can we do an exhibition together? You know, that sort of stuff. So it's really important to go and grab that network. That network is just so vital to your success. I wouldn't be energized to keep going doing what I do without that.
Yeah, I fully agree. I guess we came out of a time where artists felt like to collaborate with somebody else, they were worried about having their ideas stolen, or that if I tell you about this opportunity, you might take it away from me. And there was a lot of, I don't know, like difficult energy to manage between artists wanting to connect and network and come together. And I think over the past, I've felt it over the past probably 3 years on the Fraser Coast, that when I walk down the street now, I know that person is an artist and working in creative industries. I know who works at my regional gallery. I know who has gallery businesses. This community of creatives know each other now, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And beyond that, we've had programs like CQ Shopfront, and we've had the CQ Razins, and Quag Goma got involved, and we did the Gari residence, where we were meeting people from, up to Rocky and down the sunny coast. There's this feeling amongst the community that says it's okay to collaborate, and that you can still be super individual, you can be super unique, you can run in your track, but we can really learn from each other, we can help each other grow. And this creative industry just feels like it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger with the networks we're making. And as we've had to pivot, we're looking to each other going, what's working for you? What's not working? How do we get to this next platform and do it together and make sure people aren't being left behind in the process? That feels like new energy from the industry I first landed in. Are you feeling the same shift happening?
Yeah, I've over the years, I think I felt waves of that, and I definitely feel like COVID-19 has helped to consolidate some of that in a way. It sort of helps you to shuffle your priorities and go, okay, yep, this is my tribe, and this is where I'm going to go. This is where I'm going to put my energy, and that support seems stronger than ever. Yeah. I do believe, yeah.
It feels
there's also that issue of the IP breaches and stuff like that.
Yes.
And I'm an oversharer. I always have been, and so I'm experimenting with techniques that not too many people have experimented with before. It's not completely unique, but I'm still putting it out there because I'm an oversharer. But I've also learned over the years that if you're first to say it, if you're first to put it out there, then people will remember that.
Yes.
So a friend of mine whose work is quite explicitly being mimicked at the moment, the story I've been giving her is exactly that. Just remember, you were doing this first. People will come back to you and spend money buying your artwork because you were the first to get your idea to market.
And nobody will ever do it like she does. I honestly believe that if you're the one who's had the passion and the drive and the impetus to get something happening, you know, like to copy what somebody else does, you don't have the full mechanics of that idea. To just take it from someone else means it's been birthed somewhere else. And the full mechanics of what you've created is what's going to serve you to keep putting it to the market. And we do see that. We see, here's the original, and we still love it because that person's love and energy and passion and inspiration was there and it was theirs, and it's moved forward that way. And things that are copied just don't have. I'm a big believer in the forces of energy and vibration, and what you put into something will, you know, people feel it. And if you've just stolen somebody's idea, there's a tainting that happens to that will have a karmic effect at some point. So I say to people, nobody can do you like you do it, and that if that birthed with you, and you are the one who holds that passion for that project, you are going to be the one who'll carry it to its ultimate destination. And
Absolutely.
copy it, they're going to fall away at some point. It's not theirs.
They can't tell the story. They can't tell the story, can they?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. If it doesn't birth with them, it's not theirs. And you feel the authenticity of you know, like when I talk to you about the projects that you've created and where you go, there's an authenticity and a passion that you can't fake. You can't fake when somebody has truly put their heart and soul into. I use that word birth because that's where it comes from. There's this seed of inspiration, and you nurture it and you grow it and you learn and you research and you test and you try before it comes to market. So
that's right.
Passion and that energy that comes with the product. And if you're just going to steal somebody's ideas, it'll never have the same legs, grit, integrity, none of the above. So I say to artists, I say share, overshare, talk, let it get from in here to out here, because that's where it gets its life. That's where it starts to really be something that you can tangibly hold and move forward. If it all stays tucked back in here, put it in your wardrobe, because who's going to connect with it? So
exactly.
I'm with you. Share. And you know, if people...
couldn't have said it better than the way you just said it just then. I'm glad this is recorded.
I think we come from a very similar place on that front, and just going, you know, your belief in you is what's gonna carry your project forward, and anyone who tries to steal it, it's on them. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Look, this has been a fantastic conversation, Shelley. It's been so good to really share ideas and learn a bit more about your practice and how many people you're helping at the moment to really comprehend this idea that an arts practice it's a business practice as well. It is a creative practice. And just from my point of view, watching my colleague and my dear friend Karen just blossom under your tutelage, is I just like power to you with what you're doing and how you're serving our community. And big thank you for coming and having a chat today.
Oh, thank you so much.